So hi there grade 5 pupils, welcome back again to another video lesson. So we are now on week 8 of our lesson for grade 5 mathematics quarter 1. So this time we will be discussing division of fractions. So previously I have discussed about visualizing division of fractions. This is by using models like rectangles, circles. Okay, so dito, I will be discussing the whole process on how to divide fractions and what is or are the techniques that we can use to divide fractions easily. So let's start. So for our lesson objective, at the end of this video lesson, you are expected to divide simple fractions and whole numbers by a fraction and vice versa. So during our discussion on visualizing division of fractions, I have discussed with you on how to divide a fraction by a whole number by a fraction, and fraction by a fraction. So dito, tuturuan ko kayo talaga kung paano yung process and ano nga ba yung pagkakaiba ng process niya dun sa multiplication of fractions at ano din ang pinagkaiba. So let's start our discussion. So let's have division of fractions. So dividing two fractions is like multiplying the first fraction by the reciprocal of the second. Okay, so when we divide fractions, we are considering the reciprocal. Diba, dun sa ating discussion on multiplication of fractions, meron tayo yung topic wherein we multiply a fraction by its reciprocal. So when we say reciprocal, we switch the position of the numerator and the denominator. So dito, ang kinukuha na natin ng reciprocal is yung ating divisor, the one that is being divided. Yung dividend, yung nauuna, hindi po natin kinukuha yung reciprocal niya. So, for example, if A over V is divided by C over D, then it will become A over V times D over C. So, A over B here is what we call the dividend. And then C over D, this is what we call the divisor. So kapag nagdi-divide tayo ng fractions, so kinukuha po natin yung reciprocal ng divisor and then we will proceed to multiplication of fractions. So yung divisor natin is C over D, kukunin po natin yung reciprocal. Kaya as you can see, naging A over B times D over C. Ang reciprocal po ng C over D is D over C. So after po natin makuha yung reciprocal, that is the time na i-apply po natin yung rules natin sa multiplication of fractions. We can also use cancellation method since we are talking about multiplication of fractions. So this is one technique that I will be discussing with you, which is keep, change, flip technique. Okay, so tatlong step lang siya. Keep, change, flip. So paano nagwo-work ang technique na yan sa division of fractions? First, keep. So ibig sabihin ng keep, do not change the dividend. So ibig sabihin, hindi po natin kukunin ang reciprocal, hindi po natin babaguhin yung given dividend. Next, change. Switch the division sign to the multiplication sign. Okay, so yung ating division sign, yung operation natin, magiging multiplication po siya. And then, flip. So after changing the division sign to multiplication sign, that is the time that we get the reciprocal of the divisor and multiply. So kapag change natin yung division sign to multiplication sign, ang next step natin agad is kunin natin yung reciprocal, yung kabaligtaran ng divisor. Tsaka po natin pag-multiply yung mga fractions. For example, what is 1/8 divided by 3 over 7? So apply po natin yung keep. So, keep, do not change the dividend. So, ibig sabihin, yan lang po siya. 1/8. Next, switch the division sign to multiplication sign. So, imbis na division na siya, magiging multiplication na po. So, 1/8 times the reciprocal of the divisor. So, flip na tayo. So, yung 3/7, ito po ang kanyang divisor. So, magiging 7/3. So, after nating ma-flip, makuha yung reciprocal ng divisor, pwede na po tayong mag-multiply. Now, let us multiply. So, we can use cancellation method if there are common factors. Meron tayong makukuhang GCF. Kapag wala naman, just simply multiply both numerators over the product of the denominators. So, in this case, wala po tayong makakancel. So, 1, 3, hindi po siya pwede. Same with 7 and 8. So, we'll just multiply both numerators, both denominators. So, 1 times 7, that is 7. 8 times 3, we have 24. So, our final answer is 7/24. So, ganyan po nagwo-work yung ating technique. Now, let us proceed to dividing a fraction by a fraction. So, divide the following. Simplify if possible. So, ayan. So, apply po natin yung steps po natin kanina. Yung technique natin, yung keep, change, flip technique. So, let's have letter A. So, 3/8 divided by 2/3 is equal to n. Okay. So, keep. Sulat natin K. Ayan, keep. 3/8. And then, change. Letter C. Change natin yung operation symbol, magiging multiplication. And then, flip. Get the reciprocal of the divisor. So, the divisor is 2/3. So, the reciprocal of 2/3 is 3/2. So, ayan. Pwede na po tayong mag-multiply. So, 3 times 3, that is 9. 8 times 2, that is 16. As you can see, wala po tayong na-cancel na mga numerators and denominators since wala naman po tayong makukuhang common factors. So, our final answer is 9/16. Next, 7/18 divided by 4/9 is equal to n. Okay, so K, keep the dividend. C, change the division sign to multiplication sign. So, magiging multiplication. And then, flip the divisor. So, by getting the reciprocal of the divisor. So, the reciprocal of 4/9 is 9/4. So, ayan, equals n. So, pwede na tayo ngayon mag-cancel out. So, sulat lang natin ulit. So, yung 9 and 18, meron silang GCF, which is 9. So, 9 divided by 9, this will become 1. Then, 18 divided by 9, it will become 2. 7 and 4, wala po silang greatest common factor. So, we'll just multiply the remaining factors. So, 7 times 1, that is 7. And then 2 times 4, 8. So, our final answer is 7/8. So, I hope nasusundan po natin yung keep, change, and flip technique. Next, 5/24 divided by 15/16. So, keep. So, 5/24. And then change. So, division to multiplication. And then, get the reciprocal of the divisor, flip. So, magiging 16/15 is equal to n. So, rewrite lang natin ulit. So, dito muna tayo sa 5 and 15. So, yung GCF nila is 5. So, 5 divided by 5, that is 1. And then for 15, this will become 3. 15 divided by 5, that is 3. Next, what about 16 and 24? So, for 16, we have the greatest common factor, which is 8. So, 16 divided by 8, this will become 2. 24 divided by 8, this is 3. Next, multiply the remaining factors. So 1 times 2 for the numerator, that is 2. And then for denominators, 3 times 3, we have 9. So our answer is 2 over 9. Next, dividing a whole number by a fraction. Okay. So how do we divide a whole number by a fraction? So I will be discussing it. So let's have letter A. So 6 divided by 2/3 is equal to n. So, ang gagawin po natin sa mga whole numbers, lalagyan po natin sila ng denominator na 1. So, parang dun sa multiplication of fractions. Kapag nagmumultiply ka ng whole number sa fraction. So, eto. Nagiging 6 over 1 divided by 2/3 is equal to n. Next, apply natin yung keep, change, flip technique. So, dito tayo sa keep. 6 over 1, and then for change, so division to multiplication, and then flip, the reciprocal of 2/3 is 3 over 2 equals n. So ngayon, pwede na po tayong mag-cancel out. So 6 tsaka 2, pwede silang i-cancel kasi meron silang GCF, which is 2. So 6 divided by 2, this will become 3. And then 2 will become 1. Next, multiplying the remaining factors. So 3 times 3, this will become 9 over 1 times 1, 1. So n is equal to 9 over 1. So 9 over 1 can be simplified as 9. So if we divide 9 by 1, the answer is the number itself. So n is equal to 9. Next, letter V, 15 divided by 7 over 8 is equal to n. So magiging 15 over 1 divided by 7 over 8 is equal to n. And then keep the dividend, do not change. So this will become 15 over 1, and then change. So change the division sign to multiplication sign. And then get the reciprocal of the divisor. So 7 over 8 will become 8 over 7 is equal to n. So, wala po tayo ditong common factors. 15 and 7, wala. 8 and 1, wala din po. So, we'll just multiply them numerator by numerator, denominator by denominator. So, 15 times 8, if we multiply these two numbers, we'll get 120. 1 times 7, that is 7. So, n is equal to 120 or 7. So, this is an improper fraction. So, we do not leave our answers as improper fractions. What we need to do here is to change them into mixed numbers. So, 120 divided by 7. How many 7s are there in 120? So, if we divide this, we'll get 17. And then we'll have remainder, which is 1. So, that is 1 over 7. To check if our answer is correct, if changing 120 over 7 to 17 and 1/7 is doubtful, hindi kayo sure, so ang gagawin lang po natin dun sa 17 and 1 over 7 is i-check natin. Okay, so para equal nga ba siya sa 120 over 7? Paano gagawin yon? So, yung whole number na 17, multiply lang po natin dun sa denominator na 7. So, 17 times 7, ang makukuha po nating sagot dyan is 119. And then, plus 1 dun sa numerator. So, that is 120 over 7. Okay. So, ganun lang po ang ating pag-check. Next, 20 divided by 16 over 25 is equal to n. So, 20 over 1 and then divided by 16 over 25 is equal to n. So, keep the dividend, 20 over 1, then multiply by the reciprocal of the divisor. This will become 25 over 16 is equal to n. Next, let us get the common factors. So, we'll use cancellation method here. So, 20 and 16, their GCF is 4. So, 20 divided by 4, this will become 5. 16, this will become 4. 16 divided by 4 is 4. And then 25 and 1, we cannot cancel them. So, we'll just multiply the remaining factors. So, 5 times 25 will have 125. All over, the product of 1 and 4 is 4. Now, we have n is equal to 125 over 4. So, just like we did on the second example, so we'll change our answer to mixed number. So, 125 divided by 4. So, how many 4 are there in 125? We have 31. And then, our remainder is 1 over 4. So, our answer is 31 and 1/4. And then, to check, 31 times 4, we have 124. Plus 1, 125 over 4. So, yan lang po yung division of a whole number by a fraction. So, dividing a whole number by a fraction. Finally, what about dividing a fraction by a whole number? So, yung kabaligtaran po ng ating kadidiscuss lang. Kanina, whole number by a fraction. Ngayon naman, fraction by a whole number. So, same technique pa rin po naman kasi mas madali po yung keep, change, and flip technique. So, we have 2 sevenths divided by 4 is equal to n. So, magiging 2 over 7 divided by 4 over 1 is equal to n. Next, keep the dividend 2 over 7. And then, division will become multiplication. And then 4 over 1, this will become 1 over 4 is equal to n. Now, let us use cancellation method. So, 2 and 4, the GCF is 2. So, 2 divided by 2, this will become 1. And then 4 divided by 2, this will become 2. Now, multiply the remaining factors. So, 1 times 1 po is 1. And then 7 times 2, we have 14. So, our answer is 1 over 14. Next, 5 over 12 divided by 3 is equal to n. So, 5 over 12 divided by 3 over 1 is equal to n. Now, keep the dividend. So, 5 over 12 times, change division to multiplication, and then the reciprocal of the divisor, 3 over 1, will become 1 over 3. So, equals n. Now, we'll just multiply. So, 5 and 3, they do not have common factors aside from 1. Same with 1 and 12. So, we'll just multiply them. Numerator by numerator, denominator by denominator. So, what is 5 times 1? That is 5. 12 times 3, we have 36. So, our final answer is 5 over 36. Next, 9 over 16 divided by 15 is equal to n. So, same process. 9 over 16 divided by 15 over 1 is equal to n. Next, the dividend, 9 over 16, change division to multiplication, and then the reciprocal of 15 over 1 is 1 over 15 equals n. And then use cancellation method. So what is the GCF of 9 and 15? The answer is 3. So we'll divide these numbers by 3. So 9 divided by 3, this will become 3. 15 divided by 3, this will become 5. Next, multiply the remaining factors. So 3 times 1 for the numerator, that is 3. And then 16 times 5 for the denominator, that is 80. So our final answer is 3 over 80. So that is how you divide a fraction by whole number using keep, change, flip technique. So I suggest ang gamitin nyo pong technique is keep, change, flip kasi madali lang po siyang i-apply. So hindi po kayo malilito. And then, kapag naging multiplication na yung sign, pwede tayong gumamit ng cancellation method if possible. So kung hindi naman, multiply numerator to numerator, denominator to denominator. And then, that will be our answer. So let's now move on to our last lesson for this quarter. So which is, of course, solving routine or non-routine problems involving division without or with any of the other operations of fractions and whole numbers. So there are some problems that will be discussed wherein the operation involved is only division. Okay, so kapag routine problems kasi, usually one operation lang po ang involved. Kapag non-routine problems naman tayo, usually meron po yung other operations aside from division. Okay, so maaring gumamit po siya ng addition, subtraction, kasi yung multiplication, automatic po siya kasi dahil yung sa division, kinukuha natin yung reciprocal. And then, we proceed to rules in multiplying fractions. So, yun lang po. I hope you've learned something from this video lesson. So, keep safe.